Got it. Okay. Ooh, look at all these people.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Barry.
Hello. Erev Tov.
Erev Tov. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in a minute. Hey, good to see everyone here. Welcome to our info session tonight. My name is Ilana Ayal. I'm the Israel Ride Manager. So yes, thank you for joining. We've been planning the 2024 ride ever since the 2023 ride was canceled in October. And it's been a challenging time for everyone. But at the end of the day, we're here to support the Arava Institute. We're here to support and ride for and support the work that they've done and that the Arava Institute will do for peace and for the environment. So before we get started, we thought it could be nice for everyone to go around and quickly introduce themselves. So what everyone could do is just say their name and what they're looking to learn tonight, hope to get out of tonight, or possibly what drew them to this info session. So just your name and a sentence about why you came. So I'll just call on people and we can go around. So Mark Droy, I see you're unmuted, so why don't you go first?
Okie dokie. So I'm Mark Drury. I'm from Arlington, Mass. I'm done the ride 6 times and signed up for this year's ride, and just wanting to see if there's any thought of, potentially options if we can't hold the ride, in Israel, but still perhaps do, support a mission that under the auspices of the Israel Ride and maybe for the Arava.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Stephen Klain.
My name is Steve Klain. I'm from Minneapolis, and I did the ride in 2012, 14, and 16. So it's been about 8 years since I've done the ride. And my wife is going to do with the e-bikes. She's going to join me, and we just want to do the ride again. And also, we're going to probably, after the ride, live in Israel for a couple months. So kind of explore that, and we're just looking forward to it.
Exciting. Okay, I'm glad you and your wife will be joining us. Noah Dropkin.
Hello, yeah, my name's Noah. I live in Arlington, Virginia, born and raised in Chicago, and I've done the Ramah trip for, I think, 4 times, starting in 2015. As I'm sure everyone knows now, that was canceled for this month and replaced with, like a lot of others, replaced with volunteer trips. So I'm looking for an alternative and thinking that maybe 6 more months will bring better days.
Amen. Thanks, Noah. Barbara, you can unmute.
I'm muted. Hi. I don't know if you can see me. Can you hear me?
We could hear you.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I've been wanting to do this for 10 years, and the fact that you're doing some beforehand volunteer options and afterwards volunteer options. I've been looking to go to Israel since October 7th and volunteer. And I know a number of people. I live in Durham, North Carolina, and there have been a number of people here who've gone over to help. And So that feels like if the ride happens, then it's my motivation to do both. Have a little fun and meet some other Jews and do some volunteer work.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Barbara.
Sure.
Russell. Russell, are you able to unmute?
I live in Framingham. I did the ride in 2004 and 2009. 2009 was the 8th time I was in Israel. And I'm looking to try to cobble out a time period around that October, November from work to potentially tack on some volunteering before the ride and after the ride.
Okay, thanks, Russell. Tova.
Hi, I'm Tova Glickstein. I live in the last 30 years in New Jersey. Before I left, lived in Israel. Actually, this ride and information popped up for me in Facebook. I never did it before. I don't know. So I joined today actually to hear basic information for me, what it's all about, from where to where, how many miles, the how. So that's how why I joined. Yeah, I was looking. It came on time because I was looking to join some bike tours. So I already registered this year here in Pennsylvania for a week. And now I want to hear about the Israeli ride.
Okay, awesome. Welcome, Tova.
Thank
For anyone who's just joining, we're going around and saying our name and what drew us to this info session or what we're hoping to get out of it. So because there's a lot of people, we'll try to zip around. Margot, you're next.
Hi, my name is Margot Rosenberg. I live in Seattle. I've never done the ride, but I've been receiving the emails for several years and have thought about doing it, but never actually done it. So I'm interested in I've read like the itinerary and all that stuff, but just looking and also interested if there's any Pacific Northwest riders or West Coast. It's definitely an East Coast thing, it seems. So I don't know if there's anybody else here on this call in the Seattle area. One other kind of question is, so my partner is not Jewish, and wondering if that could, wondering if that religious couples ever come on the trip.
They do, but we'll respond to that more fully after the intros. Thank you. Let's see, Elliot Adler.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry for joining a little late. I live in the Washington, D.C. area. Been a runner most of my life and then do a lot of spinning. But last year I bought a road bike and I enjoy it. I have family that lives in Israel and Ramat Gan in the Jerusalem area. I've been back to Israel in, I'm embarrassed to say, probably 40 years. The bike ride is of interest to me. I'm active in the local JNF. Obviously, I'm a bit concerned this year about security, but and I have one of my sons is 39 and he is an avid cyclist, so perhaps he might come as well. He used to live in Taiwan, but he's back here on the East Coast. So that's why I'm leaning in. Thank you.
Thanks for joining and sharing. Zachary.
Hi, I'm just I just joined the call. I just making an exploration, wanted to learn more. I recently went on a solidarity mission to Israel with two groups, JNF and also the Melton Learning adult Jewish learning group. So I'm trying to stay involved, and I love getting exercise and nature and staying in shape too. So that's why the ride potentially appeals to me.
Wonderful. Thanks, Zachary. Who's next? Maxine?
Hi, I'm babysitting my granddaughter. So I'm glad you called on me. She's very content now. I have done the 2011 and 2022 with our son, and I want to go back because our children live there and my two granddaughters who were born in Israel. So I'll be there this summer, and I would love to come in the fall. And if I can do some of the ride, I don't know about how timing, I would love at least to volunteer and do a mission. I've been on Hazon's rides with Arva, and also independent Hazon trip went to Israel for the sustainability tour. So if you do have another option, like someone else mentioned, for volunteers, that would be ideal for me too.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Let's see, Michael Weiss. Michael, are you able to unmute? We will go forward and come back to you. Larry Aronson.
Hi, I'm Larry. I've never been on a group bike ride before, and I'm looking into this to see if this might be of interest for me. And I am also concerned about the security aspects right now, so I want to know what the plans are in that regard. Thanks. Oh, I'm from the Chicago area.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Okay, let's see, Barry.
I'm Barry Schlossberg. I live in Newton, Mass, around the corner from the Arava office. I speak Hebrew. I've been to Israel more than 20 times. My wife is from Rishon LeZion. She teaches Hebrew at Dartmouth College. And I love the 2022 ride, except for the rental bike. And I was prepared to ship my own bike, one of my bikes this year. And that's what I'll do, hopefully, with the 2024 ride. And that's about it.
Thanks, Barry. Okay, Alan Friedman.
Hi there. I did the 2018 and 2019 ride. Loved them both, and love the concept. Love supporting our. So I don't know yet if I can commit to this year, but I want to keep in touch, and I want to hear what's new and exciting for this year. Also curious about the security plans and such.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, I'm looking at the screen. Whoever has not gone, who I've missed, please unmute and introduce yourself. Oh, Lester, I see you. And Neil.
Hi, folks. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I'm Lester Blumberg. I live in Lexington. I've been on the ride for a half a dozen or so times in years past. This year I am chairing the inaugural virtual ride. So I'm here to talk a little bit about that, to encourage folks to go to Israel and ride, but to talk a little bit about the virtual ride. And I'll do that a little later on.
Lester. Neil.
Hi, Neil Epstein. I've been on the ride a number of times. Mostly interested tonight in seeing how plans are evolving, routes, and volunteer work. Thanks.
Thanks, Neil. Michelle, I see you just joined the call. We are going around and saying what we're interested to learn tonight, or why we came to the meeting. You're on mute.
Hello, I'm just interested to see some information because I was thinking of coming to the ride. Last year I was going to go actually, but it got canceled. So possibly this year we'll see what the situation is.
Okay, thanks for joining. And I think Michael Weiss or Herb, if either of you want to unmute and introduce yourselves, feel free.
This is Herb Goodman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know if my camera's on. I'm driving, so you might be looking at the top of my car. From Dallas, Texas. I've thought about this for a few years. I'm just interested in getting details about the length of rides and the security and a lot of the other things that people have mentioned. So ready to have you give us the info.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining. We thought we could start with a video. It's a 5-minute video and there's a lot that's explained in the video. So I'm going to share
Alana,
my
I think we haven't heard yet from David Burnett and Barbara.
Okay, thanks for calling that out. David?
I guess I was
Sorry.
out. I was trying to get away with just being a watcher. I'm interested in doing the ride next year. I've done a lot of endurance racing type of thing, marathons and Spartans. I've got a team called the Savage Jews, and we're talking about doing some cycling things. And I haven't been to Israel since before COVID, so this would be a great opportunity to both go back in a different way and to add cycling to the repertoire. I have a lot of friends and family who've done the ride, and everybody thinks it's great. So, and I'm from Needham.
Thanks for joining. Sorry, there's a lot of moving boxes on my screen. I'd also, yeah, should we hear from just an introduction from David, Sharon, Howie, before we finish the intros? Sharon?
Hi, I'm Sharon Cohen. I live in Western Massachusetts, and I've been on the ride a number of times. I'm part of the ride planning committee and boards, whatever you want to call us. So I've been working with David and Howie and Alana. I get quite a long time, and I look forward to going back to Israel, being back on the ride, and adding a little volunteerism to this trip.
Thank you.
I'm David Eisenberg, been doing the ride most years since 2005. Looking forward to this year, and this year probably the big difference between this year and all other years, in addition to all that's going on in Israel, is we're planning a family trip to Israel that will either be the 2 weeks before the ride or 2 weeks after the ride.
And I'm Howie Rodenstein, the founder and chair of the ride. This was my baby. I've done it every year that we've done it since 2003. I'm split my time between the Boston area and Miami. You know, we're excited to try and have a ride this year. There's lots of issues up in the air, as you all know, and we want to try and get across to people what the ride is, what it's like, and try and answer some of those questions and try and hear some of your concerns so that we can try and address them as we look to put this together in this unusual time, we'll just say.
And before we get to the video, Barbara, did you get a chance to introduce yourself? I just want to make sure. If you didn't, feel free to unmute. Okay.
I
in
was the
meantime-
first person. I did.
Okay.
I already did.
Okay. Yeah, I think I see you twice on the screen, but okay, we're good. Okay, so I'm going to try to share my screen and please just let me know if you hear the video before. So do you hear it?
Not yet.
Thumbs up? Not yet. No? Okay. Let me try one. I'll stop sharing and reshare a different way, and we'll see. Okay, how about now? Let me know. Did you hear it? No. It could
No
be
audio.
because of my
No audio.
headphones. Hold on one second.
We can see
It
it, but
doesn't
we
appear that
can't
you're
hear
on
it.
play, Alana.
What about, I'm gonna try one more time and then this should work now. Computer audio. Share. What about now? You can hear it? Okay, so I'm gonna make it big and I'll,
Big and louder.
okay, cool.
It's just muffled sound, Ilana. You gotta make it much louder.
Did you say something, Howie?
There's
The
just
sound's
muffled.
not working.
You need to make it much louder or the sound is not working.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's not working. It's coming through as static.
No. Oof. Let me try one more time and then if not, we'll just skip it all together and call it share.
Or at least send a link then in the chat and then people can watch it on their own time after.
For sure. It's a good idea. Okay, what about now? Is that loud enough? No. Okay. Aw. I will definitely send it in the chat then.
And Don,
Do you want someone
We can
else to
watch the
try?
video with all the sounds, that's fine too.
Do you want someone else to try sharing it? And it could be your setup in particular that's not working and someone else's might.
Sure. I'm gonna put the, Noah, do you feel comfortable sharing it? Like, it seems like you might have an idea how to. Okay, I'm gonna send you the,
I will try.
thank you. I just sent you the link in the chat.
Bless you.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't know it was on.
All right, give me one moment. Let me now share. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes, fantastic.
Hear any
But no
audio?
sound.
There's
No
no
audio.
audio, but we can
No sound.
look at it and.
Okay, so let's watch it.
And we could speak over it.
yeah, let's
Still no
let's leave
audio?
going a little in the background and
sorry.
we'll talk about it a little bit and maybe as it goes we'll talk about some of what's going on there. So if you can just let it run, Noah.
All right, I'll do that. Sorry, there's still no audio. I don't know why that would be.
So just to give a quick brief overview, the Israel ride is 5 days of riding. We start on a Tuesday, which is a Get Organized Day in Jerusalem. The first on Wednesday, we ride from Jerusalem to Ashkelon. On Thursday, we normally ride from Ashkelon to the middle of the Negev along the Gaza Envelope Road, which was the place where things happened on October 7th. And then on Thursday, we will ride from the Negev to the Dead Sea, where we will spend the weekend. For those of you who have been before, we usually had gone to Mitzpeh Ramon to spend Shabbat, but the hotel in Mitzpeh Ramon is under renovation or reconstruction. So there's no place else in Mitzpeh Ramon that can handle us as a group. So we're going to spend Shabbat on the Dead Sea. We'll early on Sunday morning, we'll bus up from the Dead Sea and start riding from Mitzpeh Ramon, where we usually spend Shabbat, and ride on Sunday from Mitzpeh Ramon to Kibbutz Keturah, which is in the Arava, and then from Kibbutz Keturah to Eilat on Monday and finish up on Monday. That's the classic route that we do. We have 3 riding groups. The first riding group, well, we'll start the middle riding group, which is the most popular group, does 50 to 60 something miles over the course of the day. There's another group for strong and riders that does 70 to 90 miles a day at a faster pace. And there's another group that does about 30 miles or so in a half a day. And the other half of the day does touring at some local interesting off the beaten track sites. We raise money for the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies, which is a premier environment. Here, right there, I got a premier environmental academic and research program in the Middle East. What's special about the Arava Institute is they learned early on that nature knows no borders. And so they brought not only Israeli students, but Palestinian students and international students who all learned together at the Arava Institute. And they also learned how to live together and how to work with each other. Everything, once you get to Israel and you join us, pretty much everything is taken care of. We also take care of your bike, where you can come to the airport, arrive in Israel before 3 days, a week, 2 days, 3 weeks before the ride. We'll take and store your bike, and it'll meet you at the beginning of the ride. And the same thing at the end of the ride, it meets you at the airport. One of the things that's unique and special about the Israel ride is that the crew who are supporting us, making sure that there's water in the various places and lunch and supporting everybody on the road, are alumni of the Arava Institute. Israelis, Palestinians, Jordanians, and you sort of see that working for you in front of you, and a chance to get to meet some of those people and learn about some of the magic that takes place at the Arava Institute. There's a registration fee and a fundraising obligation. We encourage people to go beyond the fundraising minimum, and we count on that in terms of what we do. Roughly, your registration fee and roughly half of of the minimum go to cover the costs of the ride, your costs, hotels, food, ride support, buses, et cetera, and the remaining half of what you raise goes to support the Institute. David, Sharon, anything you want to add to a quick overview before we open up for some questions?
Also, what's different about this year?
Yeah. So what's different about this year? We don't think we're going to be able to do our full ride on Thursday in the normal route that we go on. Although it may be possible, things change quickly, because that is going along the Gaza envelope area, where all that destruction and horror that you've seen a lot about happened. We plan to offer an opportunity for people not to ride on that day, but to spend time sort of learning about what's there, seeing some of the places, talking to people who are living there, and just sort of doing a day of solidarity of the Gaza envelope. We'll ride on that route. We'll find an alternative route that goes more towards the center of the country and then comes back to do. We're also planning, we usually offer pre and post ride opportunities, and want to create opportunities for people to volunteer during that time. The ride starts on Tuesday. We'll probably do something that's Sunday and Monday as one opportunity. And then the ride ends on Monday. We'll probably do something that's Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What that volunteering will be or where it will be, it's hard to say now. The needs change all the time as to what they are. Some of that may be also spending some time, not just volunteering agriculturally or in some other way, but meeting some of the people who have been displaced and doing some of the probably more of what we might do on that Thursday. It's hard to really define exactly what that is gonna be until we're a lot closer to it. Those of you who track the things closely know that there are websites there that provide volunteer opportunities that are being updated on a regular basis. So we don't have a lot of details to share, other than there'll be an opportunity to do some volunteering, and we'll try and create whatever breadth of opportunity that we reasonably can. The big question that everybody asks is, well, can this happen? What's with security? How do we deal with that? Security has been an issue for us every year of the ride. The standard security process works. We get a permit from the police, and then every day, before every day, just like every Israeli public school field trip, before they go out on a field trip that's anywhere near any of these areas, they get in touch with the Army, and the Army gives, based upon the most recent action or things that they see, give a thumbs up or a thumbs down for every day. So we would do that in the same kind of way. And so the Israelis are looking at us the way they're looking at their children, and they take care of their children. And if you know anything about Israeli society, it's about as child-centered a society as you'll find anywhere in the world. Does the Israeli army know everything that's happening? We would have said, no, they don't know everything before October 6th, but obviously, we believe that if the situation were, if the ride were to be scheduled next week, that given the current situation, that we think we would be able to do the ride. What's going to happen a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, where we're going to be? If I could tell you, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about the Israel ride. I'd be trying to solve problems in other places. So that's a little bit of what we're talking about. We have a number of alumni and multi-time alumni on the call. If any of you would like to jump in and talk a little bit about things on the Israel ride that have been special for you and where it's meaningful for you, I think that'd be great before we open it up to questions from a bunch of the newbies who are on the call who want to sort of ask some more questions. So anybody want to jump in?
I do.
You want me to talk about the virtual ride now or later?
We can do that a little later.
Later.
Okay.
Howie?
Yep, go ahead.
Assuming the ride occurs, what I'm interested in, because I'm going to do the same I did in 2022.
No. Barry, before we do questions, I wanted a few alumni to be able to talk about their experience and what the ride has meant to them.
Okay,
So
I can do that, but can I ask a question at
then
the
you
end?
ask your question. Yes.
Okay. The experience was fantastic. I love the experience. I've been to Israel many times before. I do shomrim, so I can do touring. And as I said, the only minus was the rental bike, which will be taken care of with my own bike. And to me, it's a lot more than a bike ride. I've done PMC several times. That's just a bike ride. This is an experience, seeing Israel. The touring I liked Jared and the other guy, I forget his name.
Bill. Yes.
Bill.
We have tour guides, licensed Israeli tour guides who join us.
Right.
And are with us and ride with us and explain sort of the places we're going. Anybody else want to jump in?
And one question you said I could ask.
Yeah, we'll do the questions afterwards at the end.
Okay, fine.
Sure.
I'll jump in. I think Neil had something to add.
So I've done the ride 6 times. I would have to say that there is no greater way to see Israel than from the seat of your bicycle. Every time I've done the ride, I have seen something just totally different that blows my mind, just from the beauty of the country, whether it could be a spiritual moment, just the way the sun hits the rocks. Coupled with that, you have formed friendships with people that endure, and it's an opportunity really to get to know and to understand the work at the Arava. So it's just.
Thank you. Neil?
Yeah, I mean, I've also done it a number of times, and I would agree with everything Mark has said. In addition, it may sound odd, but there is a spiritual component to being in Israel, crossing through terrain that, if you follow the weekly parashot of the Torah as we move through the desert, you can't shake the sense of being part of this much greater story, the much greater rationale for why we're here at all as a group. What's our story? Yeah, the country's beautiful. Anybody who loves to cycle is going to be challenged. And it's that wonderful mix in cycling of, feeling your body do what it can do to, achieve the goal of covering the miles and climbing the climbs. Socially, it's wonderful. You're meeting a lot of like-minded people. There's a lot of chance to socialize and get to know people. So it's fulfilling on a very personal level, as well as, in terms of your goals for cycling.
Thank you. Anybody else want to add anything?
Yeah, my hand is up, so I'll just speak as I don't know if you see it. It's Alan. I mentioned I did 2 years. My first year I did the Tzofim, and I do want to say, I hadn't really trained, but I was able to do it. I would just say that in the evenings, I was a bit tired after doing what was about 55 miles, I'd say. So it was manageable, very well supported. I didn't actually need to use the support that year. But when I kind of talked to the Shomrim people, it inspired me in my second year to drop down to Shomrim because it is beautiful, the riding, right? But I felt like I was missing out on actually getting closer or further into some amazing, amazing things. The tours every day was just another amazing thing to see that I wouldn't see if I was riding past it. So I do recommend the Shomrim. I think the person before had said that. And just in terms of sport, you know, my first year I did all the there's some amazing downhills, shall we say. But in the second year, I was actually leaving early to come back to be the sandak at my grandnephew's bris. And so I felt like I just don't want to take any risks on this ride. And having the bus, I've never been better supported than on this ride, whether it's the fresh dates at all the rest stops or the ability to hop on the bus if you're a little bit tired and take a little break. It's really, there aren't rides like this anywhere else. So if those of you who said you were thinking about doing your first ride, this is like the Rolls Royce of rides if you want support. So that's it for me.
Awesome, Alan. Lester, do you want to also
so
share
I
a little
just-
bit about the virtual ride?
Okay, I can do that too, but let me give
Yeah.
you my veteran comments first, and I won't add anything that everybody has said so eloquently about the spiritual and the physicality of the aspects of the ride and the beauty. But I will say two things that have sort of been mentioned before. One is, and Howie said something about the magic of the Arava Institute, and there is no, you know, I visited the Arava Institute on the ride, and I've seen that. You really do get to experience the magic of the Institute and the magic of the dynamic of people who, you know, in many parts of that land don't talk to each other, don't see each other, don't recognize each other, and that is the magic of the Arava Institute, aside from the wonderful technology. The other thing I will say, and I assume I was going to talk about security more specifically, or may. For those of folks who have been to Israel before, I think you know this. For those who haven't or haven't been on a ride like this, I've never felt safer than when I've been in Israel, whether on the ride or other times. You know, we hear, you know, first of all, it's horrible. What's going on there is horrendous, but we hear the worst of it. And you know, there's never been a time when I have felt unsafe on the Israel ride. And I think folks who have not been there before should feel secure in that knowledge that they just won't let you do anything that's not safe, that they don't think is safe. So those are the things that I would add to that. And yes, if you want me to talk about the virtual ride now, I'll spend a couple of minutes on that. So I've done, as I said before, I've done the ride a half a dozen or so times. I would never, the first thing anybody should do is go on the ride themselves in Israel. The first time, second time, or 10th time. But in talking to Howie and the team this year, I personally, not because of the situation, just because personally I've done it a half a dozen times and I'm not ready to go back, and I may or may not be ready to go back, but right now I'm not. And we came up with this as a way to build on the community that the ride engenders, both for people who have done it before and aren't ready to go, aren't going to go back this year, for people who are thinking about it but don't think this is the year for them, or for people who will never go, but really believe in the Arava Institute as a concept. So we are developing, and plans are still underway for the virtual ride. There's a registration link. Many of you have already received it. The fundraising is a little bit different. We are asking people to commit to fundraising levels, but it's not a hard commitment like it is when you sign up for the ride. We're asking people to set goals, and we're asking people to achieve those goals and exceed those goals. It's going to cost you $1,800 of fundraising to get a jersey, but then again, it's only a $72 registration fee, and that just kind of covers the administrative costs. And it is a ride your own adventure. Again, plans are kind of still in flux, but people will decide what they want to do. I initially said I was going to pledge 500 miles in July and August. In sending out my pitch this year, I decided that, you know, the first 1,000 miles that I ride this year starting April 1st will be for the Israel ride. I sort of tongue in cheek challenged my donors to pledge $1 a mile. I will tell you that my mother kind of said, "Yeah, I guess I have to do that." I said, "No, you really don't, Mom." But that's the goal is both to both to build community, sustain community, and raise funds for the Israel Ride. There's no other costs about it. So every dollar you raise is money that will go to the Arava Institute. So that's my pitch. The emails that have gone out have my email address in it, but I'll put it in the chat for people who want to think about that. If you are a first-time rider and you're on the fence, go to Israel, ride the Israel Ride. But if you fall off the fence and decide that you're not going to go this year, join us on the virtual ride.
Oh my God.
Thanks, Lester. So let's open it up for questions. Feel free to raise your hand or just write your question in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can.
Let's let Barry ask his question. I promised I'd let him ask a question.
Okay. Barry, feel free to unmute.
You have to unmute Barry.
Assuming the ride happens, my question is about the first nights in Jerusalem. I know we're not going to be in Malay Hamisha. When are we going to know where we're going to be in Jerusalem before the ride begins on Wednesday?
We're going to be in 2 or 3 hotels that are in Jerusalem. It's near the American Colony Hotel, which is close to the area of Mea Shearim, but not in it at all, and easy access to lots of places in Jerusalem. We should have that definitive, and there's 2 or 3 hotels that are close together. And so we'll be using 2 or 3 of those depending on our numbers.
Are we going to have a choice?
Not necessarily. No. So somebody said they had a non-Jewish spouse and sort of asked that question. They're absolutely positively welcome. This is not a Jewish ride per se. The Arava Institute that we support is full of non-Jews as well as Jews. We do optional activities on Shabbat, which include a number of services, but none of that is mandatory. And we have a few non-Jewish people, I think, each year. And, I think somebody can feel absolutely comfortable in that environment. I would just say, in addition to what everybody else has said about the ride so far, for me, the biggest surprise doing this over 20 years and the nicest part of it is the people. It turns out this is a very much a self-selecting group of people. I've made a lot of friends. A lot of other people have made a lot of friends. It's just overall a really nice group of people, and we've built a community so that I think, if you meet someone, if you were on the 2015 ride and you meet someone from the 2018 ride, you have a common language that you speak. So that's been wonderful. I did talk a little bit about security. A number of people mentioned that. If people want to ask more detailed questions or looking for more about that, happy to try and answer them, as well as any other questions people might have.
So
This is Herb Goodman from Dallas. I'm sorry, I'm still driving and I don't have a way to raise my hand, but if you are in one of the, let's say I don't remember the names of the Hebrew names of each of the 3 riding groups. But
Yeah.
if you're in one group and for whatever reason the next day you just don't feel like you want to do 70 miles, can you drop down to the other group, or are you sort of assigned to the group that you're in and that's it?
No, you have lots of flexibility. The way it's set up, I encourage people on Wednesday, the first day of riding, if you're not sure which group you want to be in, to try the more challenging one, to get an idea, and you'll quickly get an idea of where you fit. We have on Thursday and Friday, you have to be in the same group. So on Wednesday night, you have to choose for 2 days. But then you can move from what you were on Wednesday, and on Sunday and Monday, there's flexibility to choose what you do. So there's a lot of flexibility in that.
Also, I'd note we never leave someone in the desert, even if you're still this, on day 2, whatever, day 3, you're in the same group, but you, even during the ride, decide you'd like to ride a little bit less, we're more than happy to sag you either to the end or from rest stop to rest stop. And you won't be alone on the bus. So you have a lot of flexibility.
Can you give details about the bike, if you provide bike, whoever doesn't come with the bike, and also about the cost?
Sure. We offer to arrange for you a bike rental, if you want, or you can bring your own bike. When people ask, what should I do? Which should I do? Because there's costs associated with both, and they're, in the end, it's probably not that much different. I tell people, if you have a relationship with your bike, you should bring it. And if that sounds like something that doesn't make any sense to you, then a rental bike is probably just as easy.
Yeah.
And cost-wise, the registry, we have a registration fee that you pay when you register. It's currently
$895.
currently $895, and then there's a minimum fundraising commitment of $5,000.
Yes, and then
And we hope you'll do more.
To rent a bike, it is a road bike is $425 for the whole week.
And if you bring your bike, it's about $200 for them to set it up and take it down.
There's also a hybrid option if you ride a hybrid. We do hybrid rentals as well.
And we can send you the link to the part of the website that has all that information.
Okay, thanks.
So someone asked if there's a go, no-go date. On October 6th, 2023, we were a go. So it's hard to say that there's a go, no-go date. We generally have had somewhere in the 125 to 175 riders on the ride, and that's what we count on to make it all work. We don't have that many signed up today. There's a lot of interest and there's a lot of trepidation. But we're looking at the situation, and at this point, based on what we know, we think we're going to go. But it's hard to come up with a go, no-go date, and there's also so I'm not sure how to answer that more.
Well, Howie, isn't there a point at which that you have to commit to the hotels or you have to back out because of deposits and all that?
Yeah, that's summertime.
So that's it.
In the sense of that, yeah. But you know, that we paid all our deposits in 2023. And you know, the great majority of them were able to get them which was real money. And the great majority of that were being able to get rolled over, so we can utilize it this year. But it's you know, we're constantly, and the situation is changing quickly, and so it's hard to say that we're asking people to commit a certain amount of their fundraising done by August 15th, right, Alana?
Yes.
Is it August 15th? And so if you
half
have,
of
if you haven't done half of your fundraising by August 15th, just sort of because of all those things, we're asking people to guarantee that half with a credit card. Now, does that mean if you keep fundraising from other people, then we wouldn't have we won't charge your credit card. But we need that to be able to deal with all these circumstances that we have to deal with the deposits and the like.
Margot asks, are e-bikes available?
A certain number of e-bikes are available. They're the e-bikes of the sort that we would use, which are really pedal assist e-bikes, are not that common in Israel. There's tons of scooters that don't require pedaling, but we're not using those. There's there's a process to apply for an e-bike, which is really consists of we don't want people to use an e-bike for the first time when they come to Israel, because we're worried about that from a safety standpoint and a few other things. So there's a little bit of a process, but e-bikes are available. And there's an e-bike is more costly than the other rental bikes. You can't bring an e-bike because of the weight and the battery, but mostly the battery issue that you put on a plane.
But if you ride an e-bike here at home and you want to have an e-bike on the Israel ride, then as long as one's available, we're happy to reserve those. Like how I said, it's a limited number, so people who want e-bikes should reserve early. Just a little added wrinkle on cancellation, and at this point we hope and expect to have the ride. But I think one thing we did learn during COVID is, I shouldn't say it this way, but don't hold on for too long. I think in our heads, we probably knew in both years that were canceled by COVID. We probably knew before we finally admitted to ourselves that we knew. And it might have been less disruptive for some of our riders and participants if we had acknowledged that. And it's not like we were deceiving anybody, we just weren't admitting it to ourselves. So I don't think it necessarily has to be what's the last minute we could cancel. We could always as happened last year when the war broke out, and cancel up to a week before. But with, like I said, sticking to the COVID example, 2020, when we canceled sooner, it gave us the opportunity to do some really nice programming that went with the virtual ride we did here in the US. And that was actually really well received by a lot of people. It takes a lot of work to do that. So you can't do that at the same time as you're planning a bike ride in Israel. The following year, when we were hopeful until much later, by the time we canceled, it was really too late to do much here in the US. So it was just plain canceled. So there are variables other than what's the last minute that we can make the decision.
Does anyone have any more questions? I know we're a minute past, but if there's anything.
I have a more of a philosophical question. So it sounds like the trip is really wonderful and it's a joyous occasion and there's great connections being made. I'm wondering, with the current state and, what I've heard and from the small amount of people Israelis that I know, everybody's super stressed out, super anxious. Of course, people and soldiers are dying. Is it kind of like a mismatch that here we come from the US and we're having this fabulous time where perhaps there's a lot of stress on the Israeli side and it's might be looked like, I don't know how to say it, but like a bit of a mismatch in intent?
Margot, I think it's a great question, and it's certainly one that we've discussed, we've wrestled with. We are mindful that when the Israel Ride was first founded, it was during the Intifada, or the second Intifada, when Howie founded it, and people weren't going to Israel. It was a tough time in Israel, not comparable today, which is tougher, but it was very difficult. And the idea of the ride was in part to show solidarity with people in Israel by coming, by traveling there, by spending time with them. Is the mood so different today that would be not well received? That's a totally appropriate question, and it's one that we're asking ourselves.
Yeah, I think that the feedback that I get, and I know lots of people, as I've actually lived in Israel for 8 years at various points in my life, is that they appreciate people coming. We're, as I said, we're doing a day, a solidarity day during the middle of the ride. We're offering volunteer opportunities pre and post. Where as we are out now sort of marketing, we're talking about it less as this fantastic fun opportunity and more as a way to go and show solidarity and support an organization that is now more important than ever. So there's always a little bit of give and take on that, but I think everybody has to deal with it a little bit on their own. But I don't think all the vendors that we've used over the years are thrilled with the idea that we're coming, and that they missed a couple of years. One of the nicest stories that I heard from a friend of mine was that he was in Israel, and one of the hotels where a community of people from one of the evacuated areas was there, and they had a whole list of things that those people were offering to do. And he was in an Airbnb, and this woman came in and cooked him a Moroccan dinner, which he and his family, which he paid XY or whatever for, but it was like fantastic for that person to be able to have something to do, not just sit in a hotel, feel useful, feel like she was doing something. So just being there and being a part of them in whatever way, and the time you spend before and after, I think is something that's appreciated.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm
I don't know if
curious,
this
there
other
are
person has a
Israel-
question. I'm sorry.
It just
Sorry.
related to this, I'm just curious, how much percentage Israelis, local Israelis are participating in this tour?
Zero.
As riders who raise money, we have no once in a while we have an Israeli.
We
Okay.
have one.
The
We have
whole
one.
the whole issue of raising money from your friends in order for you to do a ride is not part of what's in Israel. Israelis say, you know, I can do this on my own. What do I need you for?
I hear you.
In kind of, you know, we have a lot of the crew and staff that are supporting this, the bike mechanics, the medics, the tour guides, you know, are all Israeli, but not riders, kind of raising some of our lead riders who are you know, working, but it's just not an Israeli thing to this point before the war, and now I think, you know, all the more so, this would not be what people would be raising money
I want to
for in
build-
Israel.
If I could just augment what you're saying with some experience too. I feel like, you know, you mentioned, well, Americans are coming here to have a great ride and a fun time. I feel like the ride does take the mood on of what's going on in the Jewish world. And I'm reminded my first time on the ride is when the tragedy happened in Pittsburgh. And the ride was perhaps the way you described it. We were all pumped up. We were all excited. And obviously Sunday morning, the mood of the ride definitely changed. And we had spiritual leaders with us who got up and kind of took us through that moment. So I think given what's going on in Israel, if we're able to go, right, I think we'll be bringing that kind of sense of, hey, there's normalcy coming back here. So I think that's the way to look at it versus, are we going to be somehow out of sync with them? I can tell you that whenever people, you know, were driving their cars by us, they'd honk, you know, and there is that kind of welcoming nature from them. They're happy that we're there. And I think it'll be more so after this, if we can go back.
So
Okay.
we're a few minutes over. We're happy to stay on and answer questions further, but anybody who wants to leave, we're over our time. That's fully understood, and we'll stick around and answer more questions if people have them.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Lala Tov.
Thank you. It's great. Looking forward to it.
Lala Tov.
Thank you.
See you
Good
all.
night. So I just have one more question if you have the time. I just wanted to know what the security would be during the rides, if you add more security than usual, or can exactly.
No, we will take our cues from the Army and what the Army tells us is appropriate. So if they tell us that it's appropriate to have more security than we normally do, then we'll do that. But our experience is that we haven't had, you know, armed security following us around over the years, with a few exceptions. There were some years where we've ridden along a deserted part of the Egyptian-Israeli border that's a military area closed to civilian traffic that we were able to ride on, and then we had a military escort. But apart from that, again, we take our cue from what the Israeli Defense Forces tell us is appropriate. I don't know if that helps.
Yes, thank you.
And I could just add to it, because I just came back from a trip to Israel. The security, and the group was well inside the Gaza envelope area, and we had a security person on the bus, which is true, I think, at all times, organized groups in Israel, but no additional security beyond that, other than exactly what Howie has spoken about for the Israel ride. The Army knows where we are, as do other organizations, Army, police, etc.
I had a question about the plans that may be under development for volunteering before and after the ride. Just to
Sure.
get a sense of what you're, you know, more practical sense of what kind of activities, where they might be.
You know, I think there's two types of activity. There's volunteering types of activities, which could be agricultural volunteering, which could be, there are some of these civilian groups that do special things to provide extra meals and other things for soldiers that have volunteer opportunities sometimes. And then there could be time spent at what I would call more solidarity, which would be sort of meeting people who have been, whether it's evacuees who are still evacuated or who have gone back, or it's soldiers who have been in Gaza, and just getting a closer feel for what Israelis went through and how Israelis are feeling. It's much more of a person to person, and probably physically seeing some of the terrible sights that you've seen pictures of, just because that everybody that I talk to says if you see the pictures are horrible, but if you see it, it impacts you in a different way. So some kind of mix of those things, and those volunteer opportunities are changing all the time. We should probably get that link to the place where you can see what current volunteer opportunities are, so you could have an idea of what that might be. Ilana, we should put it on our list to do that and send that around to people.
Thank
Any
you,
other
everyone. Yeah, any other questions before we end for the night? I'm also available by email and phone and sure. Marian.
Just a quick question. I know that the route is sort of set in stone because it's with the Arava Institute, but I just wondered if there was any possibility, if not this trip, another trip, to do a ride in the north, and not all the way north, but just in the, in, I don't, what do you call it, Emek Israel, like sort of, or the Emek Hefer, I don't know what, sort of in the north, but like below Haifa area, just a really pretty area of the country. And then, of course, I guess there'd need to be a plane to Eilat after. But so it's just, I just thinking in terms of the security situation, if it's any safer in the north, but.
We have a couple of times we've done the first 2 or 3 days of the ride up north. It's actually, the north is hill after hill after hill. Some of it's up, some of it is down. So but it's very, very hilly. It's beautiful, but it's not, and the issues of getting around and back down are complicated. So I just don't think that's in the cards. Certainly not for this year. It may be in the future.
Okay. Thanks.
It also might seem odd, but the war in Gaza is what's dominating the news here in the US, but in Israel, people are very mindful that a huge section of the north is currently evacuated to other cities, and there's attacks every day from Hezbollah. I think if you're worried about safety, it's a good thing to be worried about, but I suspect we're safer in the south.
Yeah, and I didn't mean all the way north. I meant just, north of the center of the country. But
yeah, it does. It also, when you're cutting it down like that, I understand what you're trying to do. The distances get pretty short. It's a very narrow country in the middle of the country. And the roads aren't necessarily great cycling roads.
Yeah, that's what
It's a good question. It's
figured that.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to build on that comment that going to the Arava Institute is really a big part of the trip. So I would really encourage, and I think nobody does this part of the country the way you do. So really, it's kind of an exclusive. I wouldn't give up on it, notwithstanding you know, the safety issues, I do think, given the reality of the operation, it's almost over. And there's not a lot of threat from the northern part of Gaza. It's all down now deep in the south. So I do think the south is probably safer than the north. So
Yeah, if we don't think it's safe, we don't do it, period. And we'll take our lead from the IDF, but I think people can feel comfortable that we struggle with the safety question, and it's always first priority on the trip. The biggest safety issue is usually keeping riders safe from the dangers of cycling, but it's something that Howie and the team have been dealing with since 2003, and it gets addressed. 1 year, because of safety concerns several months before the ride, we still did the ride, but we changed the route for a day, 2 days, actually. Other years where there's been specific requests from the IDF, we've made small tweaks in the route. I think you can feel, you know, ultimately it's each rider's decision, but I think you can feel pretty comfortable that if it's on the docket, it's because we feel comfortable with the advice we're getting from the IDF that it's safe. Because we want to bring you all back a second time, or a third time, or a fourth time. So.
Thank you everyone for coming and adding tonight and sharing your questions and feedback. I'll send out an email with some more information and the video that we didn't get to watch together. And feel free to be in touch. We're looking forward to having a really meaningful, transformative ride this year. So feel free to reach out if you know you want to speak about it more. Lester is co-chairing the virtual ride, so I'll also include his email address in my follow-up email. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good to see everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good evening.
Bye.
Thank you.